Item 5.9, funding request from Go Tongariro.
Yeah, I'll take this one. Let's wait for the rebels to finish.
John's wife.
Right.
The missus coming home.
Okay. So in front of you, you've received a funding request from Go Tongariro for this coming year for $20,000. What you've got in front of you is and I'll just recognise Wayne and Christian at the back there. What you've got in front of you is a pure report based on decisions you've made in the previous long-term plan, which was a reduce in funding amount down to $7,000 in 2017-18. You should be conscious that this request for additional funding is actually takes it above the original funding that was originally put in place. There was some performance measures wrapped around that funding, and particularly we've highlighted on page 165 a lack of a performance report for 15-16, and also the lack of progress towards that self-funding model, which council was quite determined to put in place. So I'll take any questions, but I guess I'll hand it over to you to make a decision as to where you want to head with this one.
Any questions?
Yeah, through that chair, question to Mr. Ridd. Go Tongariro is involved with a feasibility study at the moment. If we decline this round of funding, will that impact on any of the work that's happening there?
Well, it depends what that finds, but I guess ultimately it's about delivery. So yes, there would be a fit.
Yes, Councillor Cousins.
Just some commentary. Look, we're all well aware there have been some hiccups in the lifespan of Go Tongariro, but there's been a bunch of issues at play, as we've discussed in the lounge earlier on. With the economic review in play right now, we're at the precipice, and it's imperative that we steer the course, in my opinion. The coordinator has done an exceptional job of being the glue that binds us, and I do not want to see that work undone, so it's imperative that we have council support today for that. Over to you, Tom.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to support Councillor Cousins' statement there. We are at a pretty important phase in Go Tongariro's evolution. Again, just reiterating some of my earlier points around where the evolution's at and where we might go to. I wonder, Madam Chair, if there might be an opportunity, if there's any members that wish to know something around this, that the Chairman of Go Tongariro might be permitted some speaking time to ask any questions, if that might help the members with any questions they may have.
That sounds fine. Anyone like to come forward and no? Would you like to say anything?
Up to you, Wayne. Sorry, I couldn't hear all that. Sorry. Come forward, Wayne. Oh, thank you.
Question, Wayne, the question is whether you've got anything that you want to add or talk about in terms of this item.
Can you hear me now? That's better. Thank you. Yes, look, I'd like to acknowledge the opportunity to just support our case, and also the opportunity to answer any questions that you may have. Certainly, Go Tongariro acknowledges that as far as some of the measures in the service agreement haven't been adhered to, and that's something that we are quite keen to get rectified going forward. The reality is that we have an operating cost of about $42,000 a year, and that most of that is directed towards the role of the coordinator, along with maintenance and upkeep of the administration side of things. So that's really important that we do that. As far as the self-sustainability, we've had a couple of faltering starts at that, and it really hasn't taken off. And that's in discussion with the assistance that we get from Taupo District Council officers. We believe there is an opportunity there to get that funding through targeted rate. It's just a case of actually getting the names of the commercial businesses that could make that contribution, and it's still somewhat a wee bit unclear as to how we're going to achieve that. So, but certainly it is a prime objective, and that's something that we'll strive for in the coming financial year. As far as the feasibility study, that's due to be finished by the end of this financial year, June 31st, there or thereabouts. So there shouldn't be any impact regarding the question that was answered earlier. Questions?
Yes, Anya.
So thank you, Wayne, and thank you for coming up.
Yep.
Just in regards to the 20K, what would, like I struggle with this because there's the feasibility study being done in the section 17A and everything else, but I do see that there is a timing issue, that if we don't do something, then we certainly don't want to lose Christine by any means, but so I sort of want to help. I sort of, as a councillor, want to help, but what would be sort of the minimum? Like you've asked for 20, but what is the minimum you would need to tide over until we know where we stand with the Section 17 review and the feasibility study?
We're looking into the 2017-2018 year, and really to have a reduction without something viable in place to take the 7,000 that we've already lost, and obviously the 7,000 that we'll lose going into that year is going to be difficult. So really that was, the 20,000 was really a figure that we discussed in conjunction with some of the help that I've had through Taupo District Council, that really we need to have that amount to give us surety going forward. I can't see much less than 20,000 because that's going to give us a working budget of just a bit over $40,000.
Is that including the funding you receive from EGLT?
Yes.
DGLT?
Yes, EGLT is the only other funding avenue that we have, and that's $20,000 a year. One thing we have done is that Go Tongariro has become GST registered, obviously to facilitate the economic study report that we're in the process of doing now. And just an update on that, we actually made a selection yesterday of the advisory panel, and we've also finalised the consultant to start on that, so we'll be picking that up in the next week or so. But lost the thread of the story then. Stop there.
Wayne, just a question for me, Wayne. You've already got 7,000 in the budget for the 17-18 year, and you're asking for an additional 20.
Yep.
Is it 20 all up or 27 that you're after?
We could work with 20 all up. I was looking at an additional funding amount, and we made it. It was 20,000, and obviously we knew the 7,000 was still going to be there. So we could work with a 20,000 all up.
Yes.
Through the chair. If we'd been sitting here 12 months ago and this had been brought before us, I don't believe we'd put up 50 grand for a feasibility study. When did officers of the council know the position that Go Tongariro were in?
If you're talking about the non-compliance with those performance standards in the contract, we've been talking to you about that, and we did talk to you about that when you put the $55,000 in. We made it very clear in the item at that point. So that's not new, that information.
Okay. So what monitoring was done in the past over the funding that Go Tongariro was supposed to have got from the business community?
We've had discussions with the business communities, and in general, it's been favourable. We were looking at around about a $98 targeted rate on commercial property. The issue that we've been having is really just getting the names, because there's a number of properties, businesses within Turangi that the rates are included in their rentals, and it's getting the names of those people to get a full coverage of all the commercial properties. So as I say, it's been a faltering start down those lines. We were originally hoping to have the names of the businesses supplied to us, but obviously that's not possible due to privacy concerns through Taupo District Council.
Privacy concerns through the council?
Being given the names of the owners of the business communities within Turangi.
Okay. Now, Go Tongariro has a website, is that correct?
Yes.
When was that last upgraded?
That's in the process of getting upgraded now.
And you've had the website for how long?
3 years.
And what sort of figures are you looking to spend to upgrade?
We got a grant of $5,000 to upgrade it.
So it won't come out of any of the funding that you're asking for at the moment?
No.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, just through the chair, Wayne, what will be your plan B if we decline the request for additional funds?
I don't have a plan B at this stage.
Okay, so that $20,000 is to, according to your letter, is to fund the role of Christine in general expenses, is that correct?
Yes, that's all. Anything that we do on a specific project by project basis is funded separately. We apply to the various agencies and charity fundings, charity suppliers to get those sorts of fundings.
Right. Any further queries of Wayne?
Well, it would appear that Go Tongariro will be in a bit of strife if we don't vote for the 20 grand. So do we vote for the 20 grand and they survive, or do we don't vote for the 20 grand and you die?
Shall we
Be an assumption?
put that to the motion?
Before you do, just one process thing just need to be clear around the annual plan. So just around significance. So depending on the decision today, we just need to make that assessment around this significance, and maybe Ariel, when you've made that decision, Ariel can maybe give some advice on that.
Through the chair, Gareth, you had a suggestion earlier on, possibly? No? I'll shut up.
In terms
Of the 20,000, if it was,
in terms of the question I was asked Wayne before, of whether it was the 20th.
yeah, the coordinator's role. No.
I might have lost you. So the question I asked Wayne before was whether or not it was 20,000 plus the 7,000 that's already in the annual plan.
No.
No.
We're have a discussion.
Yes.
Yes.
Or you might be able to fund it.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
there was the question for you. So your options today is to not fund it as the paper, to fund it in its entirety or a combination thereof, or you could, and it's a derivation of funding it in its entirety, is that you could tag your funding to a specific element. So you could agree to tag Christine's salary to a certain point in time. And the suggestion was that until we've got the Section 17 review and or the feasibility study, you could tag some funding to ensure that Christine can still stay employed.
Because the way I see it, whatever comes out of the review that's been undertaken, if it's going to be done by the end of the financial year, that's going to need implementation. So Christine's longevity in that role is a necessity for us, I see.
I guess that we're only talking about this financial year and this, and I guess
I get that, but
I guess the issue would be that we don't know what that implementation is, or what it might be that you need 5 people to implement whatever it is that we don't know yet. So I think we can only talk about, it's almost business as normal, Wayne, isn't it, to keep the home fires burning between now and when we get that feasibility review out.
Thank you, Gareth.
So, yes, sorry.
So
Councillor
just
Park.
through the chair, if it was to just bring it back on par with the current coordinator role salary, I'd be happy to do that rather than the blanket 20, because I think this is about just helping through a period of timing as opposed to just a blanket 20. Yeah. It needs, I'd support it if it was for Christine, and I'm not sure if that's 7 plus they have plus 13 or how that looks, but
Can we reword it in some way?
So, Madam Chair, I'm going off the cuff here, but maybe if the recommendation was something around that council approves funding to cover the salary cost, got to be careful because part of the salary cost is funded by Enterprise Great Lake Taupo as well, to ensure that Go Tongariro can retain the coordinator position for at least the remainder of the 17-18 year. And then it's up to me to manage that, to make sure that the end result is that Christine still gets paid until the end of that financial year.
So it may be less than 20.
It could be.
Yep.
I'd like
okay.
to put a ceiling on
Yeah.
that too.
I agree. So can we get that wording sorted? Any other comments?
just for just going back to the internet again, what did it cost initially for your website to be set up?
The initial one was about $10,000.
Okay.
And that was, we walked into that somewhat blind.
Okay.
Yes, Councillor Kingy.
Madam Chair, I just wonder if, just as an extension to that, this sort of thinking, whether there's some ability to just provide Go Tongariro with some support in terms of staff or something along those lines. I mean, at the end of the day, I think we have to recognise that we have an organisation that works at the southern end of the lake for the benefit of the local community, and it tries to do that largely by itself. I wonder if there's an opportunity to just put some wraparound support to ensure continuity and ensure that this organisation carries forward, whether there's something that we can do. Just putting it out there.
So all I'd say on that is that we do try and do that, and I think Christine would acknowledge the work that council officers put in.
Oh, most definitely. As I say, I've acknowledged it in the past, and I'll reiterate it again, that without the support of not just the councillors before me, but obviously the people that work within the offices here, that without that support we wouldn't survive. Because the reality is that it comes down to what Christine does and what I do as chair, along with the board as well. So we are skinny on the ground as far as that, and certainly the contribution we get from this end of the lake is very much appreciated.
So a further example of that, councillor, would be that we provide office accommodation for the coordinator in Turangi free of charge. We're in, say, the equivalent in Taupo at the hub. Each organisation pays their own, so Town Centre Taupo pays their own office accommodation. So that's an example of where we've tried to do things that we can to try and keep the organisation going.
I suppose if I could just further clarify, it's probably around the fact that Go Tongariro have got into this position. I wonder if some specialist support around looking at your business plan, looking at that sort of thing might be some appropriate support around these. Not so much the officey logistics. Can we be a step ahead of the game?
Yep. Councillor Park?
I'd just also, because we've had some issues with reporting back to the council, could we perhaps just send a message that we need you to keep in touch with us about, or with the community board or whatnot, about where you're at and whatnot, so we can try and fix some of the things that we've struggled with.
And that rests with me, and also with Sally Nelson, who's from the community board, who sits on it as well. But I have reported back on most occasions when things haven't been firing correctly. But I suppose the council and also EGLT and DGLT also want Go Tongariro to be a little bit autonomous. But hear what Tong's saying about, and the board, I think the Go Tongariro board will not disagree that there have been huge TDM problems, but they are taking upskilling classes at the moment to ensure that we're going ahead, that it's done in we've got legs growing up to a degree.
It has. It's taken a long time, unfortunately, and we really have. We've got a new board member on board now that's shown us a much sounder direction. We've also taken workshop classes on governance, which is something that, to be fair, none of the board really had experience in. My background is in corporate business, which is entirely different to what we're doing here. So, and that's been a wake-up call. We've only had one workshop. The other one was meant to be last night, but was postponed due to illness of the facilitator, but certainly that's been well worthwhile.
Councillor Hickling?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Look, we've just invested $55,000 in business case study, and if we don't sort of, with the findings, if we can't move, and it's obviously that Christine and the Go Tongariro will be able to get some action and some traction from when we receive that report. We're either looking at 13,000 or 20,000. You know, let's just do it.
Okay. Do we want to make a decision?
Oh, I don't know.
And do we have a resolution?
Just through the chair, look, I'm happy to support that, but I think we need to signal too that the purse is drying up. We can't keep continuing to self-fund.
I totally agree, but we've got to a point now where we
we are at a crossroads.
Yep. Okay, so do we have wording for the
So just, Madam Chair, if I just look at Ariel, given that the long-term plan has this declining funding mechanism, I'm assuming that we'll need to consult on, whatever we put here, we'll need to consult on the annual plan, is that correct?
My recommendation at this stage is, so the item that's before you is an assessment of the current resolution-based, against engagement policy against the current resolution. So we haven't done an assessment of a decision to provide additional funding against that policy, which we'll need to do in the assessment report for the annual plan. So what that assessment may bring to light is that there is a case for consultation, but obviously that will need to be in the context of whatever else, if anything, was on the end of the plan. So what I'm saying to you is that the decision that you can make today is to agree to propose the funding in the annual plan, but that assessment around significance of engagement needs to be undertaken as part of the assessment.
So I understand that sounds ridiculous because you're talking about such a small amount of money, 13,000, but it's the fact that the long-term plan specifically said that you were going to step the funding down.
Yeah, that's fine, I understand.
Well, now I have a difficulty because,
Really?
right, please. I raised the question, I think it was 100 grand, I just can't remember, in regards of the annual plan, but we're advised we didn't have to consult because it wasn't significant. That's what I'm saying. If this is only 30,000, it's piddle, or
So not
20 versus that.
So that's the point of what I just said, is that it's not about the quantum. Yeah, it could be for the sense. It's the fact that it's in your long-term plan, you specifically said that they were going to be weaned off, and by doing this, you're saying you're not. You're actually increasing them back up to year one. So it could be $1 that you're giving, and it would be the same thing. So significance isn't about significant amount of money. It's about whether or not it meets that significance.
So, but because the other is something completely new.
Yeah.
Okay, fine, thank you.
So do we have a motion?
We've obviously got to add what Ariel's just proposed to that suggested resolution, Gareth.
So any ideas? It would be that we.
I've got, so far I've got approves funding to cover the salary cost to ensure that Go Tongariro can retain.
So from what I'm hearing here,
Okay.
because of the dollars, if we just said proposes $13,000 additional to be put into the annual plan.
17, 18.
With further assessment to be undertaken as exercise. I guess that I don't think the resolution needs to include the significance component, but it does need to recognise that it hasn't been approved yet. It's to be a proposal to include it in the draft.
So it's a proposal, key
Yeah,
proposal.
proposal to-
And so that council approves a proposal in the draft annual plan to include an additional $13,000 or $20,000.
Yeah, and then we can consider that.
What was the figure?
It'll be reviewed in the long-term plan.
13 or 20?
Additional 13, you said?
No, it's-
13 plus the 7.
well, that's the question. Sorry.
Yes,
13.
just put a motion.
Just through the chair, if it's going to be something that could trigger that policy, then you're probably better to go out saying to consult on the 20.
Yeah.
And then you can see what comes back from the public, and then through deliberations and additional information make a more informed decision, maybe.
Madam Chair, dare I move?
Yes, please.
What Ariel said, with the 20,000.
All those in favour? Oh, okay. All those in favour of what Barry and Ariel said? Yes, against? Carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.